Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sink, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And welcome to the fifth. I can't even remember how many episodes it is now, but welcome to another episode of It's Time to Talk About. And today, it's time to talk about goalkeepers. And with me on that, I've got Mason from Blues and Stripes, all the way over in America. Mason, how's it going, bro?
Well, it's been better. A few weeks ago, I felt a lot more confident about our season, and since the couple of PSG matches, it's definitely gone downhill.
And goalkeepers has definitely been the story for the last few games in particular, hasn't
Indeed.
it? Like it's been a story for, I feel like, goalkeepers. Like, how did we get here from Czech to Courtois, which wasn't an upgrade, but definitely a sideways move. And now we found ourselves at Philip Jorgensen, and somewhere in the middle of that, there's a Kepa Arrizabalaga and a one-season wonder Edouard Mendy and Willy Caballero and Asmir Begovic. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, it's just been absolutely wild for ages. But where we are right now is the battle, the weakest, most horrible battle to watch in the world between Robert Sanchez and Philip Jorgensen. But we've got some pointed questions and we've got some particular things to get into. But before we do, just give me your general take and assertion on the goalkeeper situation. Mason, what is going on?
Well, unfortunately, after Czech, it was always going to be hard to replace a legend like that. You think about since Silva left, we've not really replaced him in defense. We've not had that leader back there. So with Czech, it's been the same thing. With Courtois, really hopeful. He was looking like a good young keeper. Just unfortunately, the draw of Real Madrid was too much at the time. Decides to leave us. That's why we call him a snake.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, because we were not prepared for him to leave, we were looking at him to be our long-term solution in goal. We were not prepared. And so we had to go splash some cash. Kepa was a good young keeper at the time, very high hopes.
Money.
And unfortunately, he's not a good keeper. He is a decent playing out from the back.
Yeah.
But his
that before.
shot, right? His shot stopping wasn't really that great. I always had an issue with him because he never wanted to move his feet. And so because of that, he got exposed several times. Didn't look comfortable. Mendy comes in, like you said, one season wonder. He stepped up, huge saves. Season we won the Champions League, he was phenomenal. And then I don't know what happened with him. Like, he just kind of felt like he lost interest, decided to move to Saudi as well. So
it was when Pochettino came in, wasn't it, that we sold Mendy? Or was it? No, it was Graham Potter.
I think Graham Potter is the season that he left, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I'm just noticing a pattern emerge that isn't even just confined to the Blueco era. We keep buying goalkeepers to get them to play out from the back with their feet, and they keep getting dropped for shot stoppers time and time and time again. Only problem is now we haven't got a shot stopper at the club.
Well, so after that whole debacle, though, he leaves. We're stuck with Kepa again, and so we bring in Sanchez as another option. Wasn't ever going to set the world alight, but we bring in Petrovic, comes in with some decent quality, looks like a good keeper, but then for some reason, the mindset, Maresca comes in and thinks, well, I want to play out from the back, and Sanchez is my guy for that. Don't know why he thought that.
It's wild.
Because I even saw an article saying, like, the players who are going to benefit from Maresca's style, and he was one of those players. And I'm thinking, why? We've seen him try to play out from the back. He doesn't do that well.
What is this twilight zone that we're living in, man, where at some point Petrovic got sold because Robert Sanchez is the guy to play with the ball at his feet?
I can't tell you, but whatever the case, Maresca finally realized Sanchez can't do that, decided to play to his strengths. He is a good shot stopper, but the problem is he's not the most consistent keeper. He has a fluke in him every so often, and once that happens, his confidence gets sapped, and when he's not confident, we've seen what he can be like. And so unfortunately, Rosignor comes in, decides, I want to try to use Jorgensen, who can play out from the back because that's how I want to play. I think that sapped Sanchez's confidence again. We saw Jorgensen's not ready for this level.
He first tried to get Sanchez to play out from the back in that Arsenal game, didn't he?
And we saw it was not it was not a
so
good
he did give Sanchez the chance. But yeah, it's just wild, isn't it, man? And like you say, Jorgensen was this is how have we ended up here, man? I just can't believe it. It's so nuts, isn't it? So yeah, with the fate, it's so difficult, isn't it? Because I feel like what we're living in at the moment is a situation of Liam Rosenior's making, essentially, because what you would have thought would have been the right thing to do from a season perspective is play to Sanchez's strengths for the rest of the season, try to keep him at top form, because regardless, like, I think he needs to go. We'll get into all of that a little bit later, but I don't think he's long for the club. He's been one of our better players this season. Now, that in itself is damning, right? But the truth of the fact is, since his performances in the Club World Cup at the start of the season, he has been keeping us in games a lot throughout the season in general, largely under Maresca, not so much, obviously, since Liam Rosenior came in. So, you know, the precedent was there that, okay, we sacrifice playing out from the back in the style for the rest of the season to try and make sure we've got Champions League. But that's not even happening. So, you know, is this down in almost completely to Liam Rosenior? Is it hubris? Is it something you think's coming from the top, where it's like, we really want you to play it from the back now? Like, what do you think's going on with the style of play?
So I think ironically, you can look at how things were going when Rosenior came in. He didn't have a whole lot of time on the training ground. We were just going basically weekend to midweek to weekend to midweek. When he had that week off, because we made it through, we didn't have to play the first round of the knockouts or the playoff for the Champions League. So we had that week off. And ironically, that was right before we draw against Leeds. And so right after that, we have the draw against Burnley. And from there, it's just been downhill outside of the Villa match. So I honestly do wonder if Rosenior was kind of looking at it saying, well, we don't have a lot of time on the training ground. We're just going to play to our strengths and just get through these matches. And then he had that week to work with them and said, all right, let's try to implement some of what I want to do. And from there, you could just see this club is not built to play that way. You know, there are a couple players that can, but I think you try to force these players. You try to force a player like Sanchez, who's not capable of playing out from the back. You try to force him to do that. He's not comfortable. And he looks like a worse keeper because of it. Like, he goes from, ironically, fighting for the Golden Glove with Raya, and now he's letting it squirm up under his arm, which he's hardly done this season, if ever. So I do think it could be coming from the top. I personally think Rosenior, he was brought in because he does have this style that I think the owners do want to see on the pitch. So I do think it partially has come from the top, but it's also he's here because this is how they want to play. They want a manager like him who's going to stick to his style and try to implement it. And I think he needed to realize, even if there was pressure, he needed to look at it and go, we can't play that way right now. We need to get through the rest of the season, see out these matches. We're playing well. We're winning games. And unfortunately, he decided, no, I'm going to try to force this onto this team, and even went so far as making the same mistake Tottenham made by bringing in a young, inexperienced keeper in a big match and then getting thumped 5-2 because of it.
I mean, I guess there's a very slightly different precedent there, though, isn't it? Because he'd already played against Aston Villa and we won.
This is true.
So,
but I still wouldn't consider him experienced because of one match.
100%. But just in terms of that, like, Aston Villa, high-profile team, Jorgensen comes in, we play well. And without digging into the minutiae of how much Jorgensen's ability to play with the ball at his feet affected that result, that's the difference, I guess, isn't it? So I want to pick up on something that I do find quite interesting about the Sanchez situation in particular. Now, the conversation largely based around Sanchez is he gets bad when you ask him to play with the ball at his feet. But there is one thing in particular that I would like to point out that proves it isn't necessarily just that, and is not. This is damning for Sanchez in general. So when Pochettino comes in, Sanchez plays the first half of the season and gets dropped for Jordi Petrovic. Jordi Petrovic comes in and looks great. Do you know what I mean? He's just big and confident and, you know, really, really assured and astute. And the reason I think that's particularly damning is because Pochettino didn't play this style with the, you know, he was kamikaze, transitional football, run, you know, gives Cole Palmer all the freedom in the world and just make sure that everyone else is covering loads of ground. And in order to play that way, we needed a good shot stopper, which we had in Jordi Petrovic. But like I say, the thing I think is damning about that is Robert Sanchez has been dropped by four managers. Three managers? Four managers. No, it is four, isn't it? Because he got dropped by Graham Potter as well.
I don't know if he was here for Potter. I mean, he was dropped at Brighton. Might have been dropped by Potter at Brighton.
So over the last 4 seasons, 3 at Chelsea, 1 at Brighton, he's been dropped by 4 different managers.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of those, we can attribute it to playing because we're asking him to play with the ball at his feet. But that wasn't the case with Pochettino, and that won't have been the case with De Zerbi either when he was at Brighton. So I think that there's something just broken with Sanchez, man. Do you know what I mean? I think I think if it wasn't the playing out from the back thing, it probably just would have happened anyway, because precedent tells you that Robert Sanchez gets dropped season on season. So do you think that there's anything in that, and does that take away any of the blame for Rosinia, or just kind of feeling it out? Like I say, I think one way or the other, Sanchez is just a terrible goalkeeper for consistency throughout a season.
So I think there's a little bit of nuance to that, because I think Pochettino's season, it's a little bit different than what these past 2 seasons have been. Just for the club as a whole, we're definitely in a transitional period. We're coming off of one of the worst seasons that the club has had in years, and so I do think that some of the issue that he had with Pochettino in charge, I think there was something to say about the confidence, the lack of confidence there for him. Yes, he wasn't being asked to play out from the back, but he also was not in the best run of form. Most of the team wasn't. And so conceding goals, I think it gets in his head, and I think we see the worst version of Robert Sanchez whenever he is conceding goals. Whether it's just a simple one-on-one chance that the defense has put him in, or whether it's a bad pass that leads to a chance for the other team. So I think the Pochettino season, while it's not directly related to playing out from the back, I think it's still related to he had a lack of confidence that season.
Yeah, it's indicative, isn't it? Yeah, for sure.
I think when his confidence is high, we've seen this season, when his confidence is high and he's playing at his best, he's a good keeper. I wouldn't say, we'll talk about this later, I wouldn't say he's a title-winning keeper, but he's good enough to make us competitive for the title. Where we've
Champions
got
League team. Champions League team on his best day.
I think you look around the pitch, pretty much everywhere outside of center back and keeper, we've got a team that's good enough to win the title. It's that those 2 areas where I think we are held back from winning and being more so competitive. But Sanchez is good enough to make us competitive. He's good enough on his day to make sure that we are not losing matches because of him.
So this is kind of my issue, though. I wouldn't go as far as to call it a philosophy, but one of the things I think about players in general is it doesn't matter how good you are on your best day; it matters how bad you are on your worst day. Robert Sanchez on his worst day is a 2. Petr Cech's worst day, I know that's a massive comparison. Petr Cech's worst day was like a 6. Do you know what I mean? So the issue, and we're not used to seeing this, man. And in general, this is not exactly widespread in football everywhere, is it? Where it's there's all these shaky, anxious keepers knocking around everywhere. So my issue with that is a lot of people have been coming out saying the same thing about Sanchez in that respect. It's oh well, look how good he was, and a lot of that can for sure be attributed to Willie Issa, the rugby guy that they brought in for the confidence boost. He's kind of like a little bit of a secret weapon. They don't talk about him very much, but that definitely was the turning point for Sanchez and starting to play well. But yeah, for me, like I say, my issue now is why I'm basically done with him is after this season and season after season after season being dropped essentially for the same thing. It's not necessarily about playing out from the back. It's about, because all the goals we've conceded, a lot of them were from set pieces where he wasn't in the right position, or he ran out and hesitated and then started trying to backtrack and it was already too late and he's been rounded by the ball. Do you know what I mean? So a lot of the goals that he's been conceding aren't actually attributed to him being asked to play out from the back in the moment that we've conceded the goal, but he just seems to be far too easily hit in the confidence department. And my issue with that is, like I say, is if on your worst day you're putting the ball in the back of your own net as a goalkeeper, you're not a Premier League goalkeeper.
And I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. I think I would say there's been a little bit more acceptance of that recently, just in the modern game, where you can have a bad day, but because nobody wants to hurt feelings or nobody wants to kill somebody's confidence, they'll be like, oh, it's okay, you'll bounce back. I remember, not to get too far off topic, but I remember watching Wout Faes for Leicester, and he played for the Belgian national team. He's got so many own goals, and I watch him play, and he's just a terrible defender. He played in the Premier League. He plays for his national team. So I think there is something to be said about when you're at your worst, you should be criticized for that, and that should be taken into account. But I think because the feel around, I think, just not to get too like theological or anything like that, but I think modern day we want to give people more chances even when they screw up.
That's 4 seasons though, man.
I know.
It's like we're not talking about 1 or even just 2 seasons.
I agree.
We are talking about 4 seasons running where this has happened to him.
But I will also say, and this is I think why I've been willing to give him more of a chance, is because if we looked at Cucurella's worst performances, in his first season, we wouldn't have given him a chance.
But that's 1 season though.
It's true.
And it was the same for Caicedo. He wasn't very good in his first season. João Pedro, up until João Pedro's bookended his entire season. It's like 1 season's 1 season. Do you know what I mean? It's like 100%. Especially if you're moving from abroad, although Sanchez wasn't. Do you know what I mean? He'd been here for a while. It can take time to settle in and bed in, and get to know your surroundings and be comfortable. And I get all that for sure.
And I think that's where for keepers, it's a lot tougher because. I mean, we've seen a lot of keepers, they have their moments. They have some great moments where they step up and save games. And I can remember De Gea, after his long stint at Man U, his final few seasons there were awful. He looked terrible. But we know he's a great keeper. He saved Man U so many times while he was there. So I think for keepers...
He went on to be good at Fiorentina as well, didn't he?
Yeah. So I think for keepers, there is a little bit more grace because of that, because they are such in the spotlight that their mistakes tend to get very shown. And so, well, I do think, for Sanchez, I think we've seen enough of him. I think we've seen that ultimately his confidence is too shaky, that he is too liable to give up goals, cause mistakes, cause issues. I think we've seen enough for him to go, I think it's time to move on. But I think giving him time this season was the right choice, because you got to give a keeper time to see, is this just in the moment he's struggling, but he's going to find his feet, he's going to find a way to push through this, or is this going to be a consistent issue at the club?
Yeah, I think the thing is because everyone was on the same page during most of the Club World Cup, and obviously at the end, back into last season. Obviously, he played well in the Conference League final, and obviously played really well in the Club World Cup as well. And that's basically what kept him in this kind of really short period of ultimately a few games, although albeit some of them quite high profile, is, the Mike Maignan noise was massive, and everyone was like, we need a new keeper, we need a new keeper, we need a new keeper. And I was the same, man, after we, won the Club World Cup and the Conference League and stuff, and I was like, well, do you know what? He seems to have turned it around, so, we'll give him another chance. We don't need a Mike Maignan or whatever. And I can only assume the reason that they went with that is because instead of spending money on another goalkeeper now, they want to try and push the boat out until they feel like Mike Penders is ready. So I get it. Do you know what I mean? I get it. But yeah, I just think it's with Sanchez in particular, I think we've seen too much. This has to be last chance saloon. I think we'll get on to what happens to Sanchez a little bit later in the video. I want to sidestep into talking about Liam Rosenior a little bit more. And we kind of touched on it a little bit. But so bearing in mind where we are right now, we're in the international break after the worst run of form we've been in 26 years, I think. And the abject nature of the performances that we saw against PSG, the abject nature of the performances that we saw against Everton and Newcastle to a lesser extent, although it was only 1 goal, it was still
very dull.
Really, really dull. What's the right thing to do for the rest of the season? Do you think is restoring Sanchez to the unquestioned? I know that Philip Jorgensen is supposedly injured. I've got a feeling that might be PR. And I don't normally say that because I hate it when people say that, but I've just got a feeling that because he didn't even wave at the fans or clap at the fans or whatever after the PSG game, he just disappeared down the tunnel, didn't he? So yeah, Liam Rosenior is the right thing for him to do for the rest of the season to restore Sanchez and stop trying to play out from the back, or do you think that we continue?
Well, for Jorgensen's sake, I think Sanchez has to be number 1, as well. I think he really did a number on his future career in that PSG match, not just because of what he did. some people are saying, not to get off on Tottenham, but Kinski, a lot of people are saying his career's done because of that one night, because they just threw him to the wolves. I think Jorgensen has a little bit more behind him than Kinski does that may not kill his career, but I think not just the performance, but like you said, the fact that he just went straight down the tunnel after that. It's not a good look. For fans at a club, they want their players. Some of them will disagree, but most fans want their players to go applaud the away fans. They traveled all this way to see you.
Gonna say, man, you're flying as well. Do you know what I mean? You're spending bare money to go and get there. Like,
exactly. So the fact that Jorgensen, after he gifted them those goals, gifted them the third one and then absolutely got beat for the next two, it was not a good performance for him. And the fact that he doesn't go and clap the fans, I think that is... He could actually be injured. Personally, I would not be surprised if they're just not saying it, but this is his punishment. He's just been out of the team. So I think Sanchez, not just for that, but also his confidence, we need to build him back up. I know we can't just rely on confidence players to turn up whenever they're feeling good about themselves, but that's what we have right now. So we have to rely on him. We have to rely on his shot stopping. And I think that means you play to his strengths. We've seen he does play the ball very well going long. He's gotten an assist this season, so
yeah, that's wild.
That's the thing. He plays that way very well. I think that builds his confidence as well whenever he's knocking it over the top. I think there are more issues than just him right now on the pitch.
Yeah.
I mentioned it in my Everton review, but João Pedro has all of a sudden looked less than what he's been looking under Rosinha so far. He was slipping all over the pitch. He's not been winning the ball back like we normally see him doing. So I think there's been a lot playing into why Sanchez has suddenly looked back to the bonehead Sanchez that we've seen. But I think the best thing for Rosinha to do for him would be play to his strengths. Let him be a good shot stopper. I don't know what the set piece coach is doing, but defensively we need to clear the box for him because he's good in the air whenever we give him the space to go after it. Just most of the time teams crowd him out and he's not capable of battling through bodies. So I would say
just been an issue where we've kind of the defenders have been a bit calamitous and there's not been a huge amount of space in the box while we've been trying to defend stuff as well. And it's
so I think
been a bit of a clown show.
You just got to build him up, try to get him back to where he was. And obviously over the summer, that's where we're just going to have to look to move him on or relegate him to the number 2 if we need him. And I know they're probably going to go with Penders. I don't think...
We'll move on to that in a minute because we've got there's loads to get into with that, so we'll move on to that in a minute. I actually just want to pick up on something you started that with that I thought was really interesting. Something came to my head. You said about that game killing Philip Jorgensen's career, the same as what's the Tottenham keeper called again?
Kinski.
So do you know what? Initially, when you said that, I was like, maybe that's a bit hyperbolic, like one game killing someone's career. And then I remembered it slapped me in the face, and I was like, there's one really massive example. Although the event was a lot bigger, of something very similar happening with Loris Karius in the Champions League final for Liverpool against Real Madrid. That's exactly what happened, isn't it? Literally, I can't even remember exactly what happened in terms of, but I remember him making a huge mistake.
They threw the ball off of, I think, Benzema's foot.
That was it. Yeah. The Champions League final.
It was one game, and everybody remembers him for that. And I can't remember where he is now.
I think he might have gone on loan somewhere, but they tried to keep him and build him back up, and then they brought him back into the team, and that was it.
Yeah,
and that one game ended his career, and it wasn't overnight that his career ended, but that was easily the benchmark to be able to look back at Loris Karius' career and be like, he was supposed to be quite good. Where did that go wrong? Oh, it was when he bounced the ball off of Benzema's foot into the back of the net in the Champions League final. So just to say that, you're 100% right that. Like I say, initially I was like, maybe that's a bit hyperbolic. Is it really like that? And I was like, oh no, it really do be like that though. Really
especially in the Champions League, that's the biggest stage, and teams will remember that.
Do you know what I mean? PSG fans are never going to forget that two-legged tie. That's etched in their history now. Do you know what I mean? Beating Chelsea we will do our best to forget about it, and we will say, oh yeah, it was because of Bluco, it was because of Rosinha, it was because of the goalkeepers. Do you know what I mean? We'll justify it and stuff, but PSG fans won't care about that for decades to come. they will be talking about that time they beat Chelsea 8-2 on aggregate in the Champions League, and ultimately Philip Jorgensen was a huge part of why that happened.
And we'll just have to say Club World Cup champions.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
He's in the gold badge. Yeah, no, it's true. And at the end of the day, like, they got their revenge, man, didn't they? They got their revenge. And you know, that's the beauty of football, isn't it? These narratives, you can't write them. They just spin themselves. So we will move a little bit into what's going to happen to everyone and maybe what next season looks like. So I am of the general opinion, and a couple of people disagreed with me about this, Kai in particular, but I think both Sanchez and Jorgensen are gone. I think we're selling them both. I don't think there's a way back for it. And we've talked about all of the reasons why during this video already. I've explained my thing with Sanchez. That's 3 seasons in a row at Chelsea he's been dropped. And he just can't keep up the pace one way or another. Whether you change the style, you bring in Willius to boost his confidence, you let him play the way he wants or whatever, he cannot stay consistently good for an entire season. And we've got, you know, nuance or moments or whatever, like 3 years running at Chelsea, and it happened at Brighton as well. Philip Jorgensen, much like, because kind of we just said, I don't think there's 2 reasons actually. A, his recent performances are indicative that he's just not good enough. Do you know what I mean? But the other thing, up until all of this happened, I actually felt bad for Jorgensen, right? Because I think the worst thing you can have for a second goalkeeper is a Jorgensen profile player in terms of age and potential. And this is what, you know, we're going to get into talking about Mike Penders in a bit, but this is one thing I'm worried about Mike Penders as well. I think the worst thing you can do, Philip Jorgensen, clearly not good enough to currently challenge Robert Sanchez for a spot. And this is his 2nd season with us, and we knew that by the end of last season. Last season, 19 appearances. This season, I think he's on like 13. Do you know what I mean? And he's not, you know, so he's turning up even less and less. So I think the problem with Jorgensen was coming to Chelsea was a bad move for him in the first place, essentially, because you're like, look at all of the backup keepers we've ever had. I mentioned a few of them at the start of the video. Willy Caballero, Asmir Begovic, Mark Schwarzer. Do you know what I mean? Is like all of these experienced goalkeepers, not necessarily all from winning teams, although Caballero was. You know, we got Begovic from Stoke. We got Mark Schwarzer from Fulham, was it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like picking up these guys that, you know, we had up until this season, Marcus Bettinelli, who never even kicked a ball, but he was just there. Do you know what I mean? He's just there, that experienced head that was there. And in certain situations, like the Sarri situation with Kepa Arrizabalaga when he refused to come off and that, do you know what I mean? We had Willy Caballero to come in and be an able deputy whilst we were sorting out whatever that was. Asmir Begovic came in for Kepa. Was it for Kepa? I can't remember, but Asmir Begovic basically turned into our first team goalkeeper for a little while.
Trying to remember.
No, it would have been Kepa as well, wouldn't it? I mean, we had Kepa for like 7 years. Do you know what I mean? It was such a long time. So do you know what I mean? And I think Philip Jorgensen's profile as a player means that he cannot be a backup keeper. He needs game time. He absolutely needs game time. And what we're seeing is the result of a young goalkeeper with potential not getting any game time, and we're throwing him in against PSG in the Champions League, and he's getting thumped, and we're surprised about it. So yeah, for me, just to sum that up, I think they're both gone. I don't think Rob Sanchez stays to be a backup or a number 2, and I'm not going to lie to you, I don't think I or we should want him to either. I think we've seen enough. Do you know what I mean? I don't think Robert Sanchez is going to be like, yeah, I'll be number 2 and fight for my place next season. Come on, guys, let's do it. I'm like, no, I think it's done, man. So what do you think, just before we move on to the solution? That's my assessment of the problem, what I think will happen. What do you reckon?
Well, I want to pick up on what you said about Jorgensen as a profile for the number 2. And honestly, I feel like any team that has had that, typically you see that number 2 not be successful at that club. You know, how many times do we see a main profile keeper be backed up by a younger keeper who then eventually takes over? I think that's the idea. But I mean, who was backup for Alisson? I think it was Karius, and
Keller.
And now Kelleher, and he's had to go on to move to Brentford to get time.
To get game time.
For Man City, after Ederson, it was, for a while, it was, who's the American guy? Stefan.
Ortega. Stefan. Yeah.
Well, Zach Stefan, and then Stefan Ortega came in after him.
Right, yeah. Okay.
And now they got Trafford. But neither of those guys, Stefan or
Trafford
Ortega,
was the first choice initially, wasn't he? That's the thing.
And then they brought in Donnarumma.
And then they brought in Donnarumma. Yeah, exactly.
But that's the thing. I think Trafford's not going to be successful either at Man City. So I think the idea is you look around the pitch. Most of the time you want to bring in, you got your more experienced. Yeah, I think about it like we've got Marc Cucurella at left back, but we've also got Hato, who's a young possibly going to take his place in the future. I don't think you can do that as keeper because you don't change your keeper as often, and you shouldn't be.
Agree. Nope.
So I agree that it should be the more your Begoviches, your Caballeros. Who was the one guy that we had that was just he was there. He had a whole thing about being a part of the Champions League winning squad without playing in the game.
A goalkeeper. What was his name? He was like the Marcus Bettinelli before Marcus Bettinelli, the Italian guy. He was Italian, wasn't he?
I think so.
Was he
He had this really funny thing though about being there.
Like he never played. Oh mate, that's going to drive me nuts. That's literally. I know exactly who you're talking about. I can see him in the green keeping.
Yeah.
I was like, but I can't remember his name.
But that's the thing.
In the comments, guys, if you know who that is, get it in the comments. We're probably going to look it up afterwards. But if you can remember straight away, then you've got better memories than we do.
But we have guys like that they could be the deputy. They're maybe in their 30s, not going to be playing any club as the first team.
And fine with not getting loads of game time. Right. That's a really important part of it as well, isn't it? Like, Marcus Bettinelli and Willy Caballero weren't like, I'm not playing enough. They were like, yeah, cool, I'm the third choice goalkeeper. It is
right.
what it is.
But they're experienced enough and they're good enough that they can step in for a couple of games if we need them to.
Yeah.
Now you've got these young keepers who they should be getting game time. They're not experienced enough, so you have to bring them in because your first team keeper has a bad game or he's injured, and now they're not ready for the match. So I 100% agree, though, that Jorgensen probably going to be gone, and I know it's not going to happen because the transfer strategy I don't think is changing anytime soon, but I would hope that we go get a more experienced keeper that is going to be willing to play second fiddle, but is there as a good backup option.
Yeah.
For Sanchez, I could definitely see him leaving, unless he has some massive turnaround, doesn't concede a goal for the rest of the season. I know the fans
want him gone.
I know a lot of fans will still want him gone because of this dip in form again. But honestly, I mean, if he comes back, we're back from this international break, and he doesn't make a mistake for the rest of the season. I mean, what was that, like 4 games that he was poor? So I still can't look at him and go, he's a terrible keeper because he had a little stretch of games. If he's like this for the rest of the season.
The thing is, the stretches that it's not necessarily how many games, it is the effect that those games have on your season.
That's true.
Isn't it? And that's the thing for me. He wasn't strong enough to be trusted to be put against PSG.
Mm-hmm.
So although he didn't perform badly in those games, Sanchez is also at fault for that because he wasn't strong enough to be considered.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? As our first choice goalkeeper, he was dropped for the PSG game. So he actually takes some of the blame for those as well.
Right. And I will say, even though beginning of the season I was fine with him because of his performances, I still would prefer that we go get the best of the best. You know, because there are some guys that I look around the pitch that, I wouldn't mind if we got slight upgrades on them because they're good, but they could be better. Mostly in the defense, of course, but the keeper is definitely one where Sanchez on his day, I trust him as a keeper, but I would not say that I want him to be the starting keeper if we're going to be challenging for the title. So I would say, do I expect him to be sold? If he continues on like he is, probably.
Yeah.
Do I want him to be sold? Probably.
I just want to pick up on something you said before, actually, because it's a good point. It's another interesting thing to get into. I love I love what you said, and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, you're 100% right. Like, when has this younger backup goalkeeper thing ever actually worked? And what people will point to is Courtois and Cech in that season, right? But the nuance is absolutely the most important thing there, because Courtois won the league with Atletico Madrid at 21, 22. Do you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, well, obviously we'll get into him in a minute, but if Mike Penders comes in, he's not coming in with a La Liga trophy under his belt. Do you know what I mean? And obviously Cech was 36, 37. Do you know what I mean? He was literally right at the tail end of his career.
Yeah.
So you're talking about one of the youngest, best goalkeepers of all time, arguably. Courtois up there in that conversation with some of the better goalkeepers in world football history, isn't he, at the end of the day? Won 1 million Champions Leagues and, do you know what I mean, won the league with us and won the league out in Spain, and, do you know what I mean, he just keeps winning leagues.
Right.
And so, yeah, for me, like, that conversation isn't the same conversation as what we're having. And like I say, what I think the conversation is exactly what you just said. It's like, where is there an example of this younger goalkeeper coming in and ousting the older goalkeeper from a development phase, like where he gets you. Because the thing is with goalkeepers, the other massive thing that we don't really think about, you mentioned it before, like we've got Mark Cucurella and you've got Yoro Hato, okay? It's not just about who starts. You can sub on a left back for the last half hour of a game. Like that never happened to goalkeepers. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you never like, okay, cool, we're winning 2-1. Let's give Jorgensen half an hour. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't happen because goalkeepers are so important to the stability of the team. So there's even less game time available for a backup goalkeeper than there is for a backup left back, backup right back, backup midfielder, backup attacker or whatever. And normally your subs in general favour midfield and attack, don't they?
Exactly.
So yeah, no, I think that's a really amazing point, and I'll be interested, guys, if you've got any examples of this in the comments where a young goalkeeper over a period of time has gotten game time, gotten better at the club, and ousted the number one goalkeeper. I'd really love to hear about it because it makes for fascinating reading. So let's naturally move on to the conversation about Mike Penders, right? Because Mike Penders is a massive question mark at the moment, isn't he? Because we're in a situation at the moment where no one's happy with any of our goalkeepers. And we've got this guy, he's the next coming of Courtois, and he's really good with the ball at his feet. And he's actually having a better shot stopping season than Sanchez is now. I looked at this a little while ago. So, albeit Sanchez has conceded like a million goals in however many last games he played, over the season so far, I think Sanchez has played like 3 or 4 more games but conceded like 5 or 6 more goals or something. Do you know what I mean? It's like even if you equate for that, obviously Penders has played less games, so Penders has actually had a better shot stopping season. Is Mike Penders ready to come in? And if he does he come in as the number one? Does he come in to battle with Sanchez, or does he come in as this fanciful development goalkeeper, which neither of us think is a good idea?
So what's hard is, I mean, obviously I've not watched a whole lot of Strasbourg this season, so I haven't been able to see him. I've seen a couple because watching just some people do, I guess, videos about Rosignor and how he was at Strasbourg. I did see a couple of highlights of Penders in that situation. So there were, of course, moments where you do see how playing out from the back with him gets exposed. So I can't really say for sure whether he's going to be ready. I think the best thing you can do, though, in this situation is bring him in to start. You know, because I feel like we've got to do away with this notion of you have, 2 keepers that you can interchange and they're going to be fighting for the first team spot. I don't think that works.
Arteta tried that and ended up with Raya, didn't he?
Yeah, you don't see that really succeed either. Most of the time you end up with your number one keeper and then the other one's just sitting on the bench stewing and then comes on to lose an FA Cup final or something, Sorry, Kepa still hurts sometimes.
Well, I mean, that was great, man. I love that. That was fantastic.
I tell you what, I was because I think I told you I coached keepers at the collegiate level. Yeah. So I'm not a keeper. I never play keeper, but I understand it a little bit better because I took some courses for that. And Kepa for me was it was painful to watch. I mean, he's same mistakes 3 seasons in with him. I'm like, what are you training him on? But I would say though, for Penders, if he's going to come in and he's going to be our number one, that's gonna be it. We're gonna be relying on him. If he's good enough, if he's not good enough, we'll just have to see. If he's not good enough, then we got, a Ramsdale-Raya situation where Ramsdale wasn't good enough. They went and got Raya, and Raya was better. So I think for Penders, it's got to be the same thing. You try him, see if he's good enough. If he's not, you got to move him on. Give
Sanchez another go.
I would not say Sanchez, but I would say go find another keeper. Go look at maybe one of the keepers because they got Raya from Brentford, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, look at some of the keepers at the mid-table and see if they can make that step up. I'm honestly.
So it's difficult, isn't it? Because the 2 ways to approach it are you bring Penders in and you essentially bring in a number 2 to compete with him and hope that someone wins, or you bring in Penders and you go out and get an older, experienced head who doesn't mind not playing. Right. That's the really important thing. Because this is one of the big things about Jorgensen we haven't really talked about a lot. Jorgensen's been agitating for a move for ages because he's not getting any game time.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him for that. He's not getting any game time because he's not good enough to be what we need him to be right now. Do you know what I mean? So, of course, he wants to go and develop, and he's still young. He's, like 24? He's literally like 24 years old. It's crazy.
I think so.
So, yeah, the two options are, you bring in like a Kelleher or, or someone like that who's a little bit older, could, maybe a bit hungry or whatever, ready to jump in if things go wrong. But again, that's like putting a lot of pressure on both goalkeepers, which is a bit of a worry. Or you do something like bring in a 30-year-old or something who's been about for a bit and doesn't mind not playing as much.
Well, quick question for you on Penders. How old is he?
21?
22? That is the other concerning thing for me, because I feel like keepers start their career like at the top level at about 24, 25. I don't rarely see keepers at 21, 22. I don't see them stepping into the big stage like that. Some of them do, and some of them have their breakout season that
20.
young. She's 20.
He's 20, yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like it's a little young for a keeper to be starting at a club like Chelsea that wants to fight for the title. So
I guess there are some arguments, like, for instance, Courtois was 21. Gianluigi Donnarumma started his professional career at AC Milan at 16 and was their first choice goalkeeper for nearly a decade.
There are exceptions to that rule, but most of them...
We're having to rely on him being like one of those guys.
Yeah, but I do agree, though, getting in a good experienced head behind him that isn't going to be pushing to start, that's there to help him grow. I'm trying to think of because there are some keepers.
Go and get Stefan Ortega, man. Surely.
Well, that's the thing. I'm trying to think about some of the keepers that are around the league that maybe are not starting as much anymore.
Who's West Ham's keeper?
Areola.
I mean, I could get relegated, aren't I? That's a bad shot. Well, they're in for it. Sells, Matt Sells.
Sells was one I was thinking of, because Forest are in that. Because he might be one that you bring him in. He's a decent keeper, so if you need to rely on him because Penders isn't doing it, I think he's a capable keeper.
People laughed at Begovic, man, but he became a bit of a cult hero. Do you know what I mean? Same with Mark Schwarzer. They turned up and did the business when they needed to do, even though they weren't coming from these massive teams. So I think there's precedent even in our own history to say that it can be a mid-lower table or relegation threatened keeper or something, because did we not get Begovic in and around the time that Stoke got relegated as well?
I think it was the year before they got relegated, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So and he turned up in big moments, man. Begovic did. Do you know what I mean? So I just think that seems like the best idea to me. I am up for giving Penders a shot, but only if we've got a reasonable safety net.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, where we're just going to have to see with the transfer strategy.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like they want to change how they're doing things. It doesn't feel like they want to go sign.
I think this will happen if the right deal is available. And the reason I believe that is because of how long the noise from Mike Maignan went on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The Mike Maignan stuff, it was serious. We were looking like they just don't want to spend money on this option. But if they're not going to go out and spend 30 mil on a 32-year-old goalkeeper, it's not going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Of course, absolutely, it's not going to happen. But I do believe we've seen enough already. Even, don't get me wrong, I know it hasn't turned out well, but from the intention, Tosin Adarabioyo is another example. Do you know what I mean? It's like that was during this, the youth-led focus or whatever. They were like, right, he's a little bit older, a bit experienced, he's free, he's been one of Fulham's better players, he's run his contract down so he can get a move, let's give him a shot.
So let's hope Sells cancels his contract at Forest.
Yeah, basically. But either way, I do, whether it be Sells or even, obviously Mike Maignan was in Italy, wasn't he? Even if it's not a Premier League keeper, I do believe that there is an opportunity there based on the actual history that we've seen. No, not just me fancifully make it up because it's what I want to see. Going after players like Tosin and looking into Mike Maignan and stuff shows they're going to be stingy about it. They're not going to pay over the odds for anyone. But if the right deal is available, I do feel like we could get an experienced goalkeeper. And I think that even if you're looking at the model, even if you're Blueco or whatever, and at the moment, surely, they're not dumb, they're not stupid, they're very intelligent people. And this is the really hard thing, isn't it? They're not, they don't know football very well, but they've been in it for a while now, and their sporting directors have been in and around football for a long time. Do you know what I mean? So they have to surely be now looking at it and be like, right, if we can get a goalkeeper for 5 mil that's got 7 years of Premier League experience, he's in his 30s, and he's not going to be bothered about not playing loads of foot. Let's just get him in. Let's just get him in.
Yeah,
Hopium, probably. But
well, and a lot of these guys, we saw the likes of a Begovic, of a Schwarzer, who they were just like, yeah, I'm happy to go be on Chelsea's, but like I could say I was at Chelsea, and if I get a game in the Carabao Cup, cool.
Yeah.
Some of these guys.
Marcus Bettinelli was like that as well, wasn't he? Like selling him to City. Why do you think City wanted him? Because he's so good at that role. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if he's not playing, we definitely missed a trick there. So let's start wrapping it up, man. Let's get your final thoughts on the goalkeeper situation before we end it today.
Well, I think ultimately, as we were talking about, you got to just end the season with trying to build Sanchez back up, trying to get him back to his best that we saw earlier this season, because he has been, up until the past month or so, our most consistent performer. So I think
that's so upsetting.
Yeah, I know. But you've got to get him back. I think there are some issues around him. I think the defense, we need the likes of Chalobah back quickly. I don't know if Colwell's going to be back before the end of the season, but it would be great to have him, because I think the defense in front of him as well has let him down in the past few matches too.
Yeah.
So I think he's definitely got to improve. I think the players in front of him, they also have to step up and hopefully get that confidence working together. And then going forward, I think we've got to do away with this model of we've got 2 keepers that are fighting for the starting spot. I think you got to get one guy in who is your guy, who is your Allison, your Raya, your Ederson, your Donnarumma. Get your guy in who you're going to trust to grow at this club. Have a good backup option who's in his 30s, who's comfortable being second fiddle, being there to step up when we need him to, and can maybe even help coach the young guy coming up. And hopefully we see that turn around, because, the keeper situation has been really rough since Czech left.
Yeah. I mean, since Courtois left, really, I guess.
True.
Because Courtois won that battle fair and square, didn't he? It was like he came in and he was brilliant. Jose Mourinho made that decision. I think it might even been a game against Arsenal, but I just remember seeing Courtois in goal, and it was like, oh, that's it then. That's it.
I still have a video, because I watched Chelsea play PSG in North Carolina when Courtois was still here. I still have a video. I was sitting right behind the goal because we went to penalties that game. And Courtois is the one that took the winning penalty. I still have a video of that on my phone somewhere. It was a good time.
Do you know what those guys have got, man, is confidence. And look, Courtois is a big ego, don't get me wrong, like he's a big ego, but you need that as a goalkeeper, man. You need that as a goalkeeper. You need a bit about you, even if maybe you're not the nicest guy to be around. Like, I need that, because that's the guy that believes no goals are getting past him. Right, so nice one. Thank you so much, Mason. This has been an absolutely wicked chat. I for one really like talking about goalkeepers in general. I feel like it's not explored enough, and your particular expertise has brought it to life for me. So I really appreciate you coming on, guys. Mason has his own channel. It is called Blues and Stripes. It is primarily a Chelsea channel, but you do Atlanta stuff as well, didn't you? MLS occasionally.
If there's something to talk about.
Okay, but it is mainly a Chelsea channel, and if you appreciate his viewing experience from the other side of the pond, then go and subscribe to that channel. Nice one, Mason. Thank you very much for coming on, and guys, thank you very much for sticking around until the end of the video. If you did, we will catch up with you all very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.